We are back on Can You Believe with Brad Pomerantz. And I'm just going to jump right in because can you believe that many employers will categorize Judaism strictly as a religion, not as an ethnicity or an ethno-religion? And as a result, when individuals or groups of individuals want to get together and form, let's call it an affinity group for now, the employers will say no. And the reality is, especially in a post-October 7th world, that has caused tremendous challenges for so many Jews who are employees. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but Jewish while working can now be quite a challenge. And to help us unpack the issues facing Jews while working is Stephen Phillips. He went from tech guru to employee aficionado, and he has started an organization called the Jewish ERGs, or Jewish Employee Resource Group. Is that right, Stephen?
That's quite right. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and in some ways, I'm tickled that we're speaking because you're in London and I'm in America, but in other ways, it's pretty devastating that across the pond, we Jews are facing issues that we should not be facing in Western democracies, and yet we are. So let's jump in, and I want to talk about what brought you, as I said, from the tech world to the advocacy world. Earlier this decade, you were working at, I can say, I guess, Amazon.
Yep.
You had a few Jewish drinking buddies. I mean, you were usually Jews like food and not drink, but okay, you were drinking, you're British, that's okay. What happened in terms of trying to kind of broaden that drinking group, I guess you could say?
Well, I'll maybe push back on you and say we love Kiddush Club, right? And that involves
That's
whiskey.
true.
So maybe
That
it
is
wasn't such
true.
a strange stretch, okay?
That is true.
No, we went from a really informal kind of drinking group. We try and go for drinks every now and then. And then a lot of things happened. There was a previous war in Israel that caused a little bit of tension in the workplace. And then really with the George Floyd movement and the Black Lives Matter thing, where we saw the explosion of DEI, I did the sort of 2.5-hour mandatory training course on inclusion and thought, Jews will be in here somewhere. And after 2.5 hours of clicking next and learning about all sorts of very strange niche kind of subgroups of people, and there were no Jews, I was kind of like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I think we should have a little group. And that was really what lit the fire. It was a bit of anger, I guess, in a strange way.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, Stephen, when you think about the fact that in America, we're 2% of the country. In Canada, maybe, I don't know, a half to 1%. In England, the same, about half to 1%.
We're half.
Yeah. And yet somehow we aren't classified as a minority, to use that term broadly, to the extent that we get some type of, I mean, I hate to sort of say the word protection, but just an acknowledgement of the challenges that we face. Okay, so you didn't see this affinity group, we'll call it. What'd you do next?
I didn't see it, so I started asking questions, which sometimes is the most dangerous thing you can do.
Oh, yeah.
We used to joke a lot that if you ask something, it becomes your problem, and it did pretty much become my problem. So I asked kind of, what's the process here? And if you know anything about Amazon in particular, they don't do slide decks, they don't do presentations. You write the press release and the frequently asked questions. And so I found a buddy who wanted to do a similar thing, and we wrote the press release and the frequently asked questions and sort of sent it off to the office that managed the groups, if you will, to try and say, hey, we want a group.
And it seems like a reasonable request, no?
You might think it seemed like a reasonable request. I got an instant, no, we don't do religious groups, go away. And I said, do you know, like, we can do better than that. We're not a religious group. Go and read the document and come back around. So they sent the person that was running the sort of employee groups program at the time. She joined us for a call, very Amazon. You do 20 minutes silent reading, write some kind of comments in the margin, and then discuss them afterwards. And the sort of beginning of the afterwards was this sort of, I think she even said, this is going to be quite awkward. And I was kind of like, this is really interesting. Go on. She said, well, I spoke to the lawyers and the lawyers told me that we had to tell you you're a religious group and go away, which is interesting to begin with because legally that's not entirely true, neither in the US nor in the UK. But then she went on to say, It's awkward because as the agnostic daughter of a rabbi, I think I'd want to be involved in this group. And now I
Oh.
don't really know what to do about it.
But let me ask you, and again, we don't need to win the oppression Olympics, and I don't want to pit groups against each other, but was there a group for Arab Brits or Muslim Arab Brits? I mean, it gets complicated.
So it gets complicated. The thing with this was that this group was trying to be global. So we were going through the US office for
Oh, I see.
DEI.
I
So
see.
it
I see.
was
I
a
see.
worldwide thing. We were kind of blocked worldwide, other than my little London drinking club. We wanted to do this
Sure.
for everyone because you got perks like being on the list of groups you can talk to when you interview and having that input thing, which is really what ERGs are great for. They're great for the visibility across the business. There was sort of Latinos and Asians. And when we started looking at the similarities between those two groups to Jews, we found so many similarities. Like there really
Right.
is so much sort of leveled that it just made sense. You don't see that so much in the Christian population or the Muslim population, the way that you do see things with Jews.
Okay. So first they said no religious groups. Then they said no religious groups, but you pushed. And
I
what
pushed.
happened next?
I push. My friends joke I'm like a dog that gets something in his mouth. I shake it till it dies. I'm not going to let go
Right.
of that.
Yeah.
Well, I pushed back. They sent the director to come and review the document. Like you said, he said no religious groups. And then the second review with the director, he kind of turned around and said sheepishly, he said, the thing is, Stephen, you're such a small group of people, we can't really look after you, but you could have a unofficial club, like people that drink coffee or people that play chess.
Ooh. I mean, there's so much wrong with that statement. You're such a small group of people, A, which suggests more reason to have the group. And B, we're being relegated to a coffee clutch. I mean, come on.
Well, my response was, how many people have been killed for drinking coffee or playing chess? I don't know that many. And I feel like there's an
Yeah.
anti-Semitism issue
Yeah.
pre-October 7th that was bubbling that we
Right.
needed to deal with, right? So I kind of kept the rabbit in my mouth, if you will, and kept shaking it till I was done. But also it was kind of pandemic time, so I did a 23andMe, as so many of us did, and then I got the genetic Jewishness back. And so we had the kind of third
What, are
review.
you like 99.9% Ashkenazi like me?
99.7 and my 0.3
7.
was Coptic Egypt, so like Sinai. So
Oh, that's interesting.
pretty Jewish,
That's
pretty
kind of
Jewish.
cool, though. I didn't even get that. I just have Ashkenazi Jew, nothing more.
Yeah,
I had, but that's interesting.
Jewish.
But that is interesting because that does suggest an ethnicity, because there's no such thing as a genetic religion. There's such a thing as a genetic ethnicity.
Right.
So did you present this to Amazon?
So as I now know, my Jewish genetics are similar to yours or similar to a Jew of color than they would be to the next kind of person that looks like me per se. So of course I did. I said, look, in fact, the way I said it was genetically I'm Jewish. Here's my 23andMe results. And honestly, I could eat a bacon sandwich every day for the rest of my life and never go to synagogue again. But when the Nazis come knocking, they're still taking me away.
Yeah.
And his response was, it's not about you, Stephen. And I may have used.
What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means.
I think the assumption was that like I'm the edge case and that there, not all Jews are like that type thing. I may have used some choice words. I'm not going to lie. This Brit sounds like he's all posh and put together, but I sometimes swear like a sailor, and that was a moment where I made some choices.
But at the same time, okay, so 3 strikes and you're out. They weren't going to do it, but then you still decided, you know what? I'm not done. You started trying to collect Amazonian Jews. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I joke a lot in this work. I did a positive collection of Jews because we like to talk about collecting and rounding up Jews in a negative light, but I found them positively. And we were doing some events. We did sort of a Purim party where we got together and read a rhyming Megillah online and everyone dressed up and it was good fun. And we did something for Hanukkah. Actually, I was in Seattle and that was really what pushed this forward a little bit. I happened to be in Seattle for Hanukkah and we did a little coffee event where someone brought his wife. And I was kind of like, we're not bringing wives and kids, but she was at another tech company. They were struggling in very similar ways. And we started talking about what was going on and realized we had so many common issues.
And this is all before October 7th.
Yeah, this is 2021-ish, I think.
And you see pre-October 7th a need for Jewish ERGs, as they're called. Once October 7th hit, I mean, it became abundantly clear that Jewish wall working was a risk and presented tremendous challenges. So what did you do?
So I'd left Amazon in the August and I carried on between the person I was introduced to. We found some other Jews doing a similar thing, and we'd started sort of getting together and talking about what was going on in our individual companies. And I carried that through post my Amazon. But on the 1st of October 2023, I took a flight to Israel and I was there for 2 weeks. So the October 7 awakening for me was real because I had rockets being
You were
fired
there.
against me. It woke me up.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was put a call in to begin with the other Jews that we had in these companies. And it's kind of amusing. I was in the airport, and in one ear I was hearing the worst things going on in these companies, people opening up Slack and writing Free Palestine in the Jewish Slack channel and leaving, and
Oh,
the company
God.
putting statements out that were anti-Semitic or only asking for donations to the Red Cross and the Red Crescent. And in the other ear, I had the full grilling from the airport about like when I drank water that day and where the water had come from. And it was kind of like an insane moment. And that was the juxtaposition of Jewish security and Jewish security, where they're like, okay, we need to do something about this. And it kind of came to me, really, because I got home to an inbox that was just endless every day with people saying, I've heard about your little group. How do I get involved? We've got a group, but we don't know what to do with it. We can't get a group. They won't let us have one. How did you start one? Help, help, help. And that sort of it came to me, I guess.
When you talk about the Free Palestine being in an employee group, let's say, I would define that as a microaggression. I would guess if you brought that to the employer, they would write it off either as, you're acting like an eggshell, or this is political speech. If you had put something in a chat like, I don't know, against gays and lesbians, HIV, you should be infected with HIV or whatever it may be, that would not be permitted. And so it's clear to me that we are facing a crisis. And that's why I'm so glad you've done what you've done, which is you have literally left the tech world and started Jewish ERGs.
I felt like I don't say I didn't have a choice, but I felt like my calling found me in a strange way. I saw the struggles, exactly like you said, people sharing stuff on internal company systems that if you take the word Jew or Zionist or Zio out and put any other minority in that we've cared about over the past 50, 60, if not more years, it wouldn't be acceptable. And yet somehow when people are freely sharing things like that, things that are clearly anti-Israel, clearly, we should make Zionists feel unwelcome here type rhetoric, it comes this, well, it doesn't really meet the level for thing. And if I'm honest with you, Brad, my realization is that fighting the anti-Semitism full on is one thing, and we need to do it. We need to confront it kind of forwardly. But equally important is to build strong leaders who are proud of who they are, who can lead communities of Jews that are proud to be Jewish and talk about what it means to be Jewish. Because when there is that vacuum where we don't do that loud, proud thing, people fill in the gap. I think about the word Zionist a lot. We kind of left it on one side for a little bit because we've got the state of Israel and that's great. And now what's happened, we see it in the media so much at the moment, is people saying Zio's this, Zio's that, the Zios are doing this as a way to say Jew in a coded way. So
You
I
can't
really
even
do
imagine. You can't even imagine what I've seen on social media. I say I'm famous, not quite famous, but famous. I have like 12,000 followers on Twitter, which is a decent number, but it's not massive. The amount of Zion Nazi I get, you can't even imagine.
I
You
joke.
cannot even imagine.
I joke all the time that it's not a good tweet because I'm also famous. I'm only at 7, so I'm catching
Exactly.
you up.
Okay, good.
I'm at 7 over the last year. I had 1,500 this time last year. 2
Right.
tweets went viral. I
Right.
joke it's not a good tweet unless I get an oven and a Hitler. And that's when
Oh,
you know
yeah.
you've
Oh,
really
yeah.
hit the spot, But this
So
is shared
let's,
internally at work as
yeah.
well, and people get away with it in that grey area of doesn't really meet the boundaries because it's Zionist, it's not
Oh,
Jew.
BS. Well, let's talk about the 4 pillars of your organization. The first is connecting, and that's easy, simple. You have WhatsApp, you have monthly calls, training, portal, blah, blah, blah. Important. But I want to dig into the kind of the values. And the first value is you want to inspire Jewishness. As you think about that, I want to throw a stat at you. The American Jewish Committee in 2025 did a study, and it found that 55% of Jewish employees reported changing their everyday behavior at work out of fear of anti-Semitism, which included taking mezuzahs down from their home offices if they're visible on Zoom, removing Stars of David, avoiding certain workplace social events. 55% in the mid 2020s. I mean, Stephen, I'm speechless, but not surprised.
That's what I say a lot of the time. Nothing really surprises me anymore. I just get intrigued by what I hear. And I would say to that we see that in the office as well, the physical office. I have a network member that I spoke to recently that is a very well-known brand in the US who said that they have members of their group that don't want to be photographed in group event pictures because they don't want to be outed as Jews to their colleagues. This is unfortunately not uncommon. And listen, part of me understands it. The other part of me, you can't see because it's hiding behind my microphone, but there's a lot of Judaica going on around my neck and I wear it all the time everywhere I go, you know? Thank God so far I've not had any issues, but I'm always conscious of it. But it's just me. I haven't got kids with me. I'm not, worried about what's going on,
But how? But I guess what I'm saying is your goal is to inspire Jewishness at work. But when you have the CEO of, Amazon being Jewish, and he won't really acknowledge that. When you have another study, I'm a study nerd, forgive me, that came out in 2024 that said in the tech space, it's particularly toxic, where 48% of Jewish tech workers report routinely encountering anti-Semitic stereotypes. How are you inspiring Jewishness in the workplace?
It's such a tough one because I also talk about the fact that we're not just the lunch and learn club. We're not just the bring the rabbi in type thing. For me, it's about doing events at work that just do positive Jewish things. So my best example, and I'm quite proud of this, was at Amazon. I ran a program over Rosh Hashanah where we put apples and honey in the offices. So you could go to the canteen and there was a little sign that said, here's a gift from your Jewish group. Now, actually, this did two things. It helped the Jewish employees because they felt seen and they felt inspired. And when you feel seen and inspired, you feel more comfortable to talk about who you are and be proud of who you are. But it also normalized us. It normalized this fun thing that we do once a year where we dip apple in honey and we explain why we did it. And so through things like that, but also sort of like little educational webinars. We'll do a webinar and we'll open it up to all employees. We've got one, we've got a few planned actually, all different sorts of topics, talking about being Jewish in so many different ways, not just what we think of traditional going to synagogue, praying 5 times a day.
Right.
We've done things on mysticism and all sorts of, different Jewishness, just to give people a chance to do things. And I feel like it's important as a group, when you're running an ERG, you want to do positive programming. You want to do things that bring joy in the workplace. And this is really my Inspire thing. Do events at work. And I help the leaders put on events at work that bring Jewish joy. And sometimes a little bit of joy is enough to make people prouder about being Jewish.
I want to ask you, since you've delved deep into this topic, as we think about inspiring Jews to be Jewish at work, why do you think it is that Jews somehow got excluded from DEI or excluded from the concept of intersectionality? I mean, if we're not a minority, however again, that term can be loaded, but in the simplest sense, I don't even know what to say. How could we not be diverse or part of an intersectional alliance?
I mean, statistically, let's be real, right? Minority, we fit the bucket without question. There's no, statistically, we are a minority. I think for me, honestly, and it makes me a little bit sad, I think we did too good a job a lot of the time at assimilating. We did a great deal of it. And I don't want to say this because it feels like a very heavy thing to say, but I think back a lot to a play by Tom Stoppard I saw in London a while back called Leopoldstadt. It was about his family. You seen it?
So good.
Right. And you know what I'm going to say? You know exactly what I'm going to say. At the beginning, they say, we're Vietnamese. They're not going to take us away. 3 of them were left at the end. And I think we did a good job of going under the radar. And because we went under the radar and you only heard the occasional story of, he's Jewish and he's senior over there, we just kind of normalized being the hidden Jew.
But here's the challenge. First of all, I agree. But secondly, for people that care about color, whatever that may mean, we're not of color. I mean, they will not define us as of
Some
color.
of us
And I
are.
understand that. Right. Some of us are, but I am, Ashkenazi Caucasian. But for people that care about whiteness, oh, we're not white. Believe you me. And so, Stephen, I mean, like, I don't even, we're between a rock and a hard place. I don't even know where we are. We're in a netherland.
I was discussing this the other day, and I had a really deep conversation, and I think so regularly about the fact that I don't wear a kippah. And I was like, actually, like, why not? Like, why did I become my dad doesn't, his dad didn't? Like, how did that happen? Like, it's a thing, it's a sign. Like, maybe actually I could start, and not even from a religious point of view, right? As the self-confessed agnostic who talks about it all the time.
I know what you're
It's such
saying.
an interesting position to be in. Like, my presentation has been through all the things I wear around my neck every day. Doesn't matter where I go.
Right.
I've always got a Magen David on, be it in the gym, be it like wherever I am.
Yeah, I don't.
Thankfully, I've only had positive conversations. I had a great one in the gym the other day. This guy walks into the change room as I was walking out, and he was like, gave me a little, and I gave him one of them back, gave him one his shirt, and we had a little moment, right? But I think for me, that's the thing. You can be Jewish in so many ways, and it's inspiring people to talk about who they are, understand more about who we are, because I feel like we don't even understand who we are a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then do it in a positive way, be it through a toolkit, be it through a trip or an experience, right? I've led 2 trips to Israel since October 7th. They're life-changing for everyone. Life-changing for me every time I go on a group trip that I'm leading, right? And so it's
if I may, let's go to your third pillar, which is engagement. You've talked about having events and stuff. Sadly, but importantly, you have a 911 hotline. You're encouraging folks to be proactive. If you see something, say something. And so what are you hearing, on this 911 hotline?
The 911 hotline is my cell phone, which is moderately ideal right now. So I get messages all hours of the day. It's lucky I've worked in international business for a while, and I'm used to the 11 o'clock WhatsApp message. We need to get better as we grow as an organization, and we find ways. We're going to change that a little bit. It's really, really not great. But I also see the engage pillar the other way around now at the moment. I think of it more holistically than just that 911 call. I think about the forward planning piece. We got intelligence that there was a UN report coming out that listed some companies that were complicit in the genocide. So I reached out to the ERG leaders there and said, look, this is coming. But I think we can take it a step further. And the thing that most intrigues me at the moment is this year I've given a briefing to non-Jewish CEOs. I started the first one in London, and we're looking to expand it, actually. We got them in a room, and we just spoke about the lived experience of being Jewish at the moment and how that manifests in the workplace. And so actually engagement, while it's engagement to help the Jewish workplace ERG ecosystem, we can push it a step further. And if we do the work properly, we're actually bringing our allies along with us. And what that does is it lets people be proudly Jewish and counters anti-Semitism all in one swift swoop.
In America, we have an organization called the Brandeis Center for Human Rights, and headed up by Ken Marcus, who is quite a master when it comes to calling out employers who are engaging in blatant civil rights violations against Jews. That's an American institution. Is there something similar in Canada, in the UK, in other places where you have an organization that's fighting for employees against this scourge of anti-Semitism with, other employee groups or even companies putting BDS stuff on their websites or, blacklisting the ADL or whatever it may be?
I mean, the Brandeis Center are partners of ours, so we work with them a lot. We did a webinar with them a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I don't know there is similar, actually, outside of the US like that. I think, I think Canada and UK, I joke a lot. I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on Zoom because that seems to be a thing in my life.
I used to be a lawyer. I used to be a lawyer.
I used to be a lawyer. I've never been a lawyer, but I seem to play one on Zoom. I was on a panel once with all lawyers and me. I think I was the fun vote then. The legal landscape in Canada and the UK is somewhat different, right? We are less litigious by a long shot. And we're also we've been quite British for a while. Stiff upper lip, keep calm, carry on, just muddle through it. I think it may be time for Jews to not do that anymore, right? We need to wake up. We have some organizations here that are starting to do it. Do I necessarily think that they work in the environment is a different question. You know,
Yeah.
to do it for the Brits, you have to do it in a British way. That's what I would say.
Your fourth pillar is growth, creating leaders. And part of leadership, I think, is being able to talk to what we know as the C-suite, which is what you did at Amazon so many years back. And so often it really does take an advocate, a squeaky wheel, to effectuate change at companies large or small. So how are you working with your ERGs? And I think at this point you have, God, almost on 250 around the world, to train them to be effective advocates with the C-suite.
So, like you said, I at Amazon worked with a bunch of very senior leaders a lot, and then my job post Amazon, I was presenting to the board all the time. I was head of IT security for an insurance firm, so I had to
Right.
be ready. So I know that shtick, if you will, inside and out. You know, it's a suit day. You're getting ready to go. You're dressing your best. We had an incident recently. Someone contacted me to say actually their CEO had reached out to them and said that they wanted to talk to their Jewish employee group about what's going on for them at work. And this leader, they were leading a Jewish employee group. They kind of found it accidentally. They said, "Where's the Jewish group? Similar to me. What do I do?" And they said to me, "Actually, I don't know what to present to the CEO. Like, how does it work? What should I do?" So I took them through the sort of process of, send the agenda, its bullet points, give them a handout, email the handout afterwards, follow up with them, make sure that you've got the paper trail so that they can't ignore it, go through all the processes. And at the moment, a lot of grow is one by one, but we're starting to plan some programming that is more long term, where we'll do cohort training. So you'll go through a development process so we can actually grow you. Because so many of the leaders in this space are not the senior executive at a big company. They could be the person that's been in business for, well, the person I helped with this C-suite engagement had been at work for years, but was kind of middle management all the time, never got there. But more often than not, they're also the girl that was at college last year and missed having Hillel on campus and was like, where's my equivalent experience at work? I'm going to put my hand up, and all of a sudden I'm running the group. So it's a lot of one-to-one mentoring. It's also, we've got to get into the space where we're doing better cohort-based development. But for me, I think this is actually grow as the untapped market, if you will, because people join the workforce all the time, and people are going to need to be advocating for our people in the workforce for a long period of time. And my sort of grow goal is that we develop through the other pillars. We develop the people that will be inspired to engage and then connect with, be it our community or be it the work community, to do this work. And that's why I love the 4 pillars like that, because they do interlink quite nicely.
Yeah. So if someone wants to reach out to you to start their own Jewish ERG, to get advice, whatever it may be, how can we find you?
How can you find us? So website, jewishergs.org, easy peasy. We're the same on all social media. So you name the social media, apart from TikTok. But I think, Facebook, LinkedIn, probably MySpace still somewhere, I don't know. Or simply hello@jewishergs.org, the best way to email us. And you'll come find us.
And the key is you are international. I mean, you're in the United States, you're in Canada, you're in the UK. Are you in non-English speaking territories?
We've got one member in South America, and I am now blanking on exactly where, which is always good. And
we've
also got Australia now. So we've really stretched around the world.
Yeah. I never thought I would have to talk to someone about the fears, the challenges, the struggles of being Jewish while working. Yet that's what we're facing right now. And I'm just so glad that someone like you, with such an in-depth level of experience in the tech world and the corporate world, has decided to take a leap, because you literally have taken a leap.
Do you know, I see it as an opportunity. And I know we talk about the negative and the sadness and the angst and the stress, but if we invest in these leaders properly, they can actually help really change the face of the anti-Semitism thing, because we spend so much time at work. So we've got to be proud and loud about who we are at work, because that flows home. Those people go home, your colleagues go home to your families. And that's what drives me. That's why I find this so important, is that we have to do this to make the change that we want to see. And so I get it. It's sad, it's scary, it's crazy, but it's also a humongous opportunity. And that's really my focus.
Stephen Phillips, you're a good man. He is the leader of Jewish ERGs. You can find them at JewishERG or Gs.org. Is that right?
Okay.
I love it. Okay, so don't forget to join our community on Can You Believe. You can like, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can do whatever you want, but most importantly, join us and join Jewish ERGs. It's a critically important organization. My name is Brad Pomerantz. On behalf of Stephen Phillips, this is Can You Believe.